Hello and welcome to hobby vlog number 118. This week I have finally, I hope, beaten the illness, though I did start to lose my voice at one point and it's still a bit croaky as you can hear, but I'm feeling so much better as I stand here now. So it's been a bit of a challenge at times to keep going. Also, awesomely, my mum's here and that's been lovely and wonderful. And has impacted some of the hobby time, but I'd much rather spend time with her, obviously. But she's also been able to sit with me while I've been hobbying. So a few times in this, there's clips being filmed while my mum is sitting just kind of out of shot, watching and smiling, which is really nice as well. So it's been a lovely week. I've had a fair amount of progress though, built on a couple of projects and got back to a couple of older ones. I really hope you enjoy this though, and I hope that this maybe accompanies you in your hobbying, or maybe you do sit and watch it and consume it, focusing entirely on it. Either way, let me know in the comments below. I love to hear from you and I do reply to every single one of them. So thanks for watching, enjoy, and I'll see you at the end. So I've still got a little bit of work to do on the actual plane. You can see I've got a bit of filling and then I've got some sanding to do over the joints and what have you. But it's now to a point where I can really start to see the size of what I'm playing with. So here we have the truck which is doing the towing. I've printed out a couple of pictures, zoomed one in so that it's a little bit closer in on the truck, and one which is the full picture that I'm using for my inspiration. And this is the base which I think is going to be good for me to use actually to build the entire diorama on. It's a very large sheet obviously, but it's a good size and it will give the thing space to breathe. Now I'll try to remember to put a picture on the screen, or put this picture on the screen so that it's a bit clearer for you. But basically it's actually quite a flat shelf, so it's actually going to work really well with this, including having the base of this little kind of ravine and then some of the mountain at the back as well. It's actually going to work quite well, which I'm quite pleased about. So my plan is to build the road first, or at least have the roadway first, and then to build up the terrain and scenery kind of around it. So literally where the supports go into the ground, they will go down onto the wood, and then I will build up around them with whatever material I use, probably screwed up newspaper, and then scenery over the top. So that's my plan. So the first thing I need to do is get the road, and I'm going to make use of the thin black XPS, which I like so much, the underfloor XPS, because I think that with a little bit of roughing up will do quite well for the black tarmac, because it's actually quite new black tarmac, and I'll be able to maybe dry brush it with some white, or put some like chalk dust on it and seal it in, and then it will look really, really nice for the road. So that's what I'm going to use. So I'm going to get the road as a single piece, which I think I can do. If I can't, then I will have at least the bridge as a single piece, and then the second part of the road here. And the only question I've got at the moment is, am I going to do the entire bowl, or am I going to have the bridge actually going off the edge of this display? And part of me thinks going off the edge of the display is going to look really cool. So that's where I'm going at the moment. But then that will make it more difficult for me to build this into the model railway later, but I can cross that bridge. Future me isn't here yet, is he? So that's my plan. Going to get the road that's going to come in from over here, go along straight, and the bridge is going to it's basically just going to be a straight road, I think. I think it's going to be a straight road going at a slight angle across. That's my plan at the moment. Having a slight turn would make it a little bit more dynamic. Quinn was the one that pointed that out, but I'm not sure that there would be a turn in the middle of this bridge, which is the problem. So that's the only reason why I might do it a little bit further on and have it going off the bridge. But I think straight, to be honest, because it's what I see here and it's what's realistic. So I'm going to go and get the materials, I'm going to do some measuring, going to do some cutting, and then we're going to work out how we're actually going to do this underneath support, which I think it's going to be quite easy with the materials I've got, which is also quite a relief. So yeah, we'll build the supports up, lay the road over the top, and then start building up the scenery around it. As I say, it feels like this shouldn't be too hard, and I wanted to say that now because I'm thinking it, and if this turns out to be a right pain, we can look back at this moment and say that's that's when I said the wrong thing. Couple of updates on the Smaug diorama for heroic highlights. So the bottom printed, and it printed out fine, so I'm really pleased. So what I'm going to do now is glue that together, and then I can start to paint that and what have you. I have an awesome idea for how I'm going to do the gold, which is going to be in the top. Second thing is, I have taken some rough metal, some scrap wood, and cut that roughly to size. It's not quite perfect, but it's good enough for what I need. And I'm going to screw that on the end like that. So to do that, I will be drilling through this one, probably 3 holes, then glue and clamp it in place, and then finally screw in through my guide holes. So I'll get that done off camera because it's going to be a lot of noise and a lot of kind of faffing, but basically screw and glue it, that's how I like it. And I will be making use of clonk, clank, clank, my nice 90-degree carpenter's angles. So I'll get that done, get that all set up, and then the Smaug head will be able to be affixed to this really nicely. Got some ideas on that, which I'll go into when I get to them. But the first thing I'll do is basically just matte black all of the wood, get that all done. Probably use spray, matte black, and just paint that all. Maybe paint it on. I'm not sure. I do prefer painting it on, but get it all matte black because then I can build up from that and do the rest of the scenery. So those are the things I'm going to do now. Glue together the printed forge and stick the end on this board to there, so that I've got the backdrop of the brace for Smaug's head, and then paint it. So next time you see this, those things will be done. So with the road done, what I'm now looking at doing is the substructure of the road. So I haven't obviously got architectural drawings, but I can look at this and work out roughly what's going on, and I can guess, and so that's what I'm doing. So this here is some 2 centimetre or 1.5 centimetre, slightly thicker green foam, which I think is going to be the right dimension. And this is going to go underneath the main road surface and have the guardrail running off of it, and then have the supports for the legs, for the uprights underneath it as well. So I've made it 2 centimetres wider than the road, so this is going to be 20 centimetres wide. And what I'm doing now is just using a very sharp knife and a safety ruler to cut that. There we are. So that was lots of very shallow cuts, very shallow passes, because I wanted to try and get it as 90 degrees as I can. I think I've done a pretty good job. So what we have there is the substructure of the road. So the road surface, and it probably doesn't actually need to be that long, thinking about it. I maybe actually should trim it down slightly, because it actually only needs to be the length of the bridge, and the bridge starts around where this join is. So yeah, that may actually not be correct, but that's good because I can cut off the damaged bit. You can't see, it's just out of shot, a bit of a damaged bit there. So that's the substructure of the road. What I'm then going to do is cut some another section that's going to make this square, so 1 centimetre or whatever, and that can then be glued on the side, on each side, which is how the guardrail is, and will run all the way down the edge of the bridge. And actually stops when it comes off the bridge. So yeah, so what I'm going to do now, I'm going to do a little bit of measuring, offer this up, work it out, and then trim the underneath so that it's actually the correct length for the bridge and however long I want the bridge to be. And then I'm going to start to make use of my pillars. Now I've trimmed these down, they're 20 centimetres, which is how high I want them. So they're 20 centimetres high, and they are going to be having another block of this green foam. I'm going to use a lot of this, probably use this whole sheet, going across, protruding a little bit, and then going across to the other side. And these will be glued to that other sheet that will go across, but the width of where that goes up is actually the edge of this green sheet. So yeah, so it's coming together. So I'm going to do some measuring, do some working out, bring you back for the next step when I get to it. And then what I aim to have by this evening is all of this glued and clamped and going off, so that tomorrow I can actually mount it on the board and then start working out how to do all the contours around it. So very, very excited, I can tell you. So I've realised that I can use all of that substructure and just hide it in the actual in the terrain as it comes up, so I don't need to cut that down. So what I'm doing now is I'm making the cross members, which are going to go across the top of the pillars. And I found that I measured it slightly wrong. I cut this by hand, but I actually want it to be 2.5, not 3 across, because that's how wide my pillars are, and this should be the exact same width as the pillars. So I'm just trimming it down with the Proxon. It's a bit of an easier tool to use. You get a bit more of an accurate cut. And what I'll then do is very carefully stick these to the top of the pillars to get that bit done. Now what I think I'm going to do is, I'm not sure whether I'll be able to, but I think I might try and pin these. So I'll put a little cocktail stick into the top of the pillar and put it and make it so that it will go, or maybe put a hole in the pillar and push a cocktail stick through or something, just so it's pinned, and that will make it a little bit more secure. So I'm going to have an explore on that, and then I'll bring you back when I come to the gluing. So yeah, those are the cross pieces that are going to go across the top of the pillars. I changed my mind about pinning, just think it's going to not be needed, especially because this is not a playing piece. If this was going on a desktop, on a tabletop for gaming, then definitely I would say pin it, but I think I don't need to. So what I'm going to do is use my Moment Fix Extreme, which I really like. And I've marked 2 centimeters in from each edge, which is where I need the end of the pillar to sit. And I'm going to just simply glue this in place using this awesome super strong glue to give it a good press down. And that should grab and hold quite nicely. So I'm going to do that on all of these, all 6, and then that's the cross pieces, which is these pieces here. Looking at it, there's actually 3. Oops, there actually should be another one in the middle. I don't think I have enough material to do that, so I may look and see if I do. If I do, then I'll put another one in the centre. But for now, I'm just going to do the outer 2. That's a bit of a mistake. I hadn't noticed that until I just pulled it over. So yeah, so I'm going to do the rest of these, and I may put another one in the middle, but just gluing down with this Moment Extreme, and then we'll come and finish off the rest of the road bed, and then I'll wrap it up for the evening. Very, very pleased with the progress. So I did have enough materials, so I've done the 3 pillars. And what I'm doing now is I'm about to take my wire brush and rough up this smooth side of the black foam, and then I'll put PVA on that, turn it over and glue it down to the green foam, and I'll do the same there, trim it off to length, and then I will get some more of the green foam and put the barrier in, but I won't film that because it'll be the same. But I just wanted to point out, when you're using this sort of foam which has a very shiny side, if you were to glue that down with PVA, it would seem to stick, but it would immediately be able to peel off. It would not be very, very secure because this is very shiny, so you need to rough it up with a wire brush. So I'm going to get that done, get it glued. I'll probably weight it down with my metal, with the long metal joining strips that I have that I use for weights, and then I'll come along and I'll glue the guardrail in to the correct length. I think the guardrail is going to go to roughly where this is, because I think that's where I'm going to have the bank coming down here. So I'll do a guardrail the length of this. So that's going to be nice and easy, and then just have a little bit more of the road there, which is where the land will be. So anyway, onwards and upwards, let's get this done. Really close to, I'm very tired, not feeling very well, so I'm very pleased to have cracked on with this so well this evening. So I'll get this done, and I'll be back tomorrow to do the next steps. Good progress last night and this morning. I've put the legs, I've attached them now to the actual road bed, so they are glued in place. I did actually end up having to re-glue the surface using my strong glue because the PVA just wasn't grabbing enough. And I did actually realise that I trimmed this down wrong. I'm actually going to be a bit short on this side, so I'm going to need to extend the road some, but I'll do that right at the end because it doesn't really matter.
a huge amount. What I'm about to do now is look to actually glue these legs to the baseboard, or at least start to work out how my scenery and terrain is going to be. I am wondering whether I might move it a little bit further back as well. I'm not sure, I need to play around with it. But what I wanted to show you was that these sets, these squares, these carpentry squares are so useful. I mean, if you don't have them, they're rapid. Oh, that was a Xena knocking my camera there. Can you please stop doing that, Xena? She's playing with her blue monkey and just hit it against the camera. Come on, up we come. There we are. Here she is, little monster that she is. Yeah, so these are so useful. Really gaff, so many uses. I used them on the Smaug diorama to hold square, and now what I'm able to do is use them to make sure that I'm actually at exactly the end of the board where the end of my road is going to go off the side of the diorama. So really useful things. So yeah, so the next steps is put the side on, because I've not done that yet. So put the little railing on over there on the side, and then start to work out how I'm actually going to shape the the scenery, because the scenery actually, I'm going to have a flat front, which I didn't really want, but I am going to have a flat front because it slopes kind of down like this, and then it slopes down here, and then it gets about to its deepest here, and then on the thing it starts to slope back up towards this side. So my plan is, and I'll bring you along for this when I start to do it, I don't have very much time now, my plan is actually to get some cardboard and start to draw out what I think my contours are going to be. So I'll have cardboard I can tack to the front, and that will have the shape. I'll have a cardboard I can tack to each side and to the back, and then that means I can put in some cardboard runners to then papier-mâché over the top, and then when I've done that I will put the modelling compound for the texture. So that's my plan at the moment. I'm really pleased with how it's going. I think it's going to look great, and it's a lot of new techniques that are going to be really useful for me with the model railway. So yeah, really good to learn. Say bye-bye, Xena. Say bye-bye, little Xena Z. There you are. She's a monster. Her mum arrived safely yesterday, and with her she brought my Thorin Oak and Shield and Company that I ordered for this diorama. So I'm only going to be using a couple of the miniatures, 2 or 3, but it's good to have that because I didn't want to use the ones that I've already got, because I use them in games. So the next thing I'm going to do, I think, to actually work on this project is I'm not going to paint everything black, which I said I was going to. I've changed my mind on that. I'm going to get all of the elements in place, apart from Smaug. Get all of the elements in place. So stick the forge down, get the barrier up, get the back done as well, so the rocks and the slightly carved area there. And once I've done that, then paint it black, and then paint everything up, and then the last thing to do will be to put Smaug on to the back wall back here and put the miniatures in place. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to work out the pillars and the rough shape of the grate that goes in between each pillars, and I think I'm going to do 3 pillars so I can have Bilbo at the front. I think that Barlin is next, and I will look and I'll watch the film again, watch that clip again, and make sure I work out who's on the third one, and I'll do those 3. And then once I've got that worked out, and roughly, I think it's got some quite diametric patterns on the grating, so I need to make sure I do it right. I'll need to maybe make a template so that I can cut those shapes correctly. Once I've got that right, and I work out roughly where I want it to sit, then I can look at building up the back. So I'm going to put these in to one side until I've watched the film, and then I'll pull out the 3 miniatures that I want. Definitely Bilbo, Barlin, might be Thorin, Bilbo, Barlin, and I can't remember. We'll do them in the correct order, and I'll put them in the painting bench and just get them painted up quickly. So that won't feature very much until they're on the diorama. So next up is going to be let's get the backdrop here and the grate in place, and I'll bring you along when I've done my planning, done my drawing, and I'm about to start cutting. I changed my mind, as I do sometimes, but before I come to that, I have printed out a couple of these crew cab pickups, because there's one following close behind with a sign on top of it, and there's another one just here actually pulling a trailer, so I'm not sure. I'll have to dig that out. But I printed a couple of those off. They're just off of Thingiverse, a free file, so that's pretty cool. So that's going to have to go into the painting queue. The change of mind involves how I'm going to do the scenery, and it's actually a bit of a creep in scope in what I'm doing, but I've always wanted to do this, and so frankly I'm just going to do it. And I think this is going to feed into the model railway as well. So down here, a bit noisy, I've got my big box of offcuts, so just expanded polystyrene. And I'm going to build the terrain up using the expanded polystyrene, because rather than having a black front, what I want is to have is a little bit of a cave, so and paint it so that it's got like the striations and the layers of the rock, so that when I put this onto the layout, I can potentially have something exposed, and you'll be able to see like some cavers and what have you inside the cave. And that's my plan. That's what I think I'm going to do. So that means that rather than actually having a template here, well, I might actually still have a template here on the left, which will be where that end of the diorama will be, and the same on the right I'll have with cardboard or whatever. On the front, I'm just going to have it with the expanded polystyrene, a little bit pulled back from the edge of the board, and then I will build on in the front of that with the colours and the textures I want for the rocks. So what I'm going to do is take my bits of polystyrene, and you can see that one actually randomly is nearly the right width, and build up this terrain. Then when I've got it, I'm going to build it right the way up, stick it down, but I won't stick it down until I've carved in, or so drawn in with a pen where I need to cut it, and then I'll use a hot wire cutter to actually do the cutting. So I'll come back to filming once I've got this all stacked up and drawn on, and I'll show you how I'm going to do the hot wire cutting, and then I'll glue it in place, and then I'm going to carve out a cave, do some stalagmites and stalactites, put some cavers in it, maybe have a river running through it, just have a little bit of interest in this area here, because this is where the road joins into the bank here, and it will kind of like go down like this. So I've got quite a lot of flat area at the front here which I can put a nice cave in. So anyway, a lot of talking. I've been thinking about this a bit, as you can tell. I'm very, very excited, so I'm going to crack on. So another day, another delivery. A couple of things to show. So first of all, the replacement or the other train for Rosie's model railway. My mum arrived yesterday and I had that delivered to her. So hopefully this runs a little bit better than the first one I bought. Hopefully it's not my track that's at fault that it didn't work. Also, I've had some awesome metal dice. This was a Kickstarter I backed randomly. Don't know why. So yeah, they look great. Really, really nice. Really beautiful little things. So there's that. Then we have this little role-playing game. Pistol Packing Bondage Nuns. I bought because A, I like to support small creators, and B, it made me laugh. I actually have some miniatures to paint up for this as well, which will land on the channel at some point. But yeah, that will be on the channel later at some point. But the most important and the most exciting thing that arrived is High Noon, and this will definitely appear on the channel soon. So what I'll do is I will get the box open and move the camera a little bit, and we'll have a look at the quality of the components, and I can tell you it's high. I have already opened this, I was too excited to wait. Yeah, we'll get a little bit of detail look at the miniatures and what have you. So I'll just move the camera. So here we are, High Noon. So we've got the rule book, which is just a soft back. I've got a cold, so I can't sniff it, sadly. But I've had a quick look through. The graphics are beautiful. The artwork that Dwight got is absolutely fantastic. And it looks relatively clear and easy to read. So I'll read it properly when I'm not quite so tired, and I'm hoping to get a game of this very soon, and maybe even get something onto the channel playing it. You then have the map. Now this is for the full game, so I believe Sweetwater is where I can't remember. I need to read it more. But there's different locations, and I believe that as this whole series develops, you'll go to more of these. Go to more of these locations. So that's pretty cool. That kind of gives an idea of just how much growth potential there is in this series. Then you have the starting tiles. Now a lot of people have criticised these. I've not opened it, and I'm not going to open it because I'm not ready to yet. But I think they look okay. It's certainly going to be a basic game. It's not designed to be an absolute premium game. It's designed to get people into playing with miniatures that don't normally play with miniatures, and to be easy and quick to set up. And that looks perfectly satisfactory to me. We then have the clock, which is the turn counter. So you have 12 turns and you have to move the counter around. I'm not entirely sure if there's put a dice in it or something maybe. We then have the character cards. So there's the 4 different posses in the base game. You have Leroy Gang, Elsie's Warband, the Sheriff Garrett, and Colonel Rogers. And let's have a look at these miniatures, because I pulled them out, I had a look at them, and I think they're brilliant for what you've paid for this, and for the fact it's not really a miniatures game. I mean, that's got loads of movement. What a dynamic pose, and it's really clear, it's crisp. You can see his face very clearly, definition on his stomach muscles, just brilliant. I'm actually really impressed with the miniatures, far more so than I expected to be. I thought they'd be a little bit plasticky and rubbish, but I didn't care. It's not what I bought it for. But they're wonderful, and I'm definitely going to want to paint them up. And it makes me happy that I didn't bother 3D printing either. I didn't bother 3D printing, even though I've got the files. I waited for them to arrive. I'm glad, because frankly, these are good, really good. I don't know if there's anything underneath. Let me have a look. No, there isn't. So that would be storage, possibly for maybe when other posses come along. And there are, as I say, lots and lots of plans for this game. So it's going to expand quite a lot, I hope. So yeah, if you're don't know what this is, there's a link in the description below. I'm active on the Discord server for the game, and actually I played this on the live stream with Dwight, the guy that wrote the rules, back before, well, right when the Kickstarter was running. I played this with him. So if you go back in my on my channel, you'll find that, and you can see me nearly beating him, but not quite. It was a really fun game. I really enjoyed it. So anyway, that arrived today. Very pleased, and that's all my deliveries for this week. It's good to get this game. I've been looking forward to it for a long time, and as I say, I'm hoping to get a game of it, play against my mum and Angela, hopefully, and maybe we'll get something on the channel as well. So there we are. So as you saw with my speeded up section just then, I had a bit of a play around, and I'm actually quite happy with where I got to. I went a little bit further along during that speeded up section, but I've taken them out because I think that this, where I've got now, is getting close to satisfactory. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to use the fix to glue down most of these, probably apart from that one, because I do need to put another bit in here, and then leave it like that. So I'll be able to lift the bridge out and then do some beginning carving of the shape, and then when that's done I can continue gluing along. So I'm probably going to take 3, maybe even 4 sessions of sticking it, the polystyrene down, shaping it and lifting the bridge in and out, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to do it so that I can lift the bridge out until the last minute when I'm going to glue the bridge in and start actually sticking down the scenic material, because that's going to make it easier for me to get in with a hot wire cutter and to shape it well. However, the one thing I did want to point out, and I've not got the camera in the perfect angle, but I'm going to be leaving a gap here, like I said, and I'm going to have a 2-level cave just in here. So there's a little bit of a kind of false tunnel effect by that being pushed over a bit, and there's like a level up here, and then there's a little tunnel here. So I could maybe even have a little river here, and that maybe on the model railway then can come out of a cave, further on, which will be quite interesting. Anyway, what I'm going to do is glue it down, so I will pop some music on and do the gluing. You can see how I do it, and yeah, when I come to do the carving, I will put the camera back on as well. So as part of my continued attempt to prevent warping, what I'm going to do is stick this thin XPS down on top of the shelf, and that will mean that anything that I do process-wise on top of this won't cause the bottom to warp. I hate warping. So it's going to be quite a simple thing for me to fix. I need to trim it to size, score it up with my wire brush, and then I'm going to make use of my Moment Fix Extreme, which I love so much, to stick that down, because that also doesn't cause warping. It's just going to stick it in place. So I'm going to get that done, just mark up, cut it out, glue it in place, and when that's set, then what I can do is I can then start to stick the uprights in, which are the pillars, and then put the grating in the middle, which is what the hobbits are hiding behind. And I can also look to stick my actual stick my forge in place. Now I am starting to wish that I'd picked a bigger or a longer diorama for this, because it's going to be a little bit constrained and a little bit outsized, but it's fine, it'll still look great. It's just that this is going to be a little bit close. There's going to be quite as much distance as there should be between this and the grating, but that's life. So yeah, I'll get that done, get that glued, and then bring you along when I get to the next step. So I had a little bit more progress, and what I've decided to do is go for this oversized slab at the back, which will give me an idea of where that contour is going to go. I've glued in over here, building more of this terrain. Finding it quite an interesting challenge to think, because I need to make sure that I don't put any glue where I want a hot wire cut. So I need to make sure that as I build these up, I'm building them up and gluing them only where the hot wire cut is not going to run. So that's proven to be quite a head scratcher. But what I'll do is I will put my glue all along the back. I won't run the camera because it's going to get a bit fiddly. And then stick that in place and leave it. And then I'll come back to continuing along the contour, bringing the level down here, which is going okay. But I've reached this point and I've kind of hit a bit of a mental block. So this is why I'm doing the back bit. So yeah, get that glued in place and then keep putting bits of polystyrene in. That's the plan. So the Spider Queen has set up, and what I'm going to do now is use some milliput, which I've mixed very badly, to attempt to hold her in place, and then I'll scenic around when that's done. So I'm going to put 2 blobs of milliput here and there. I need to get some water, and then I'll find something to hold her up with. So let's just smudge those in a little bit better, like that. And I want her to be really pouncing. So what I need is something to hold her in place while it dries. There we are. So that looks good, I think. Pretty happy with that angle. So I'll let that go off. Hopefully that will hold. If it doesn't, I'll have to think again, but give it a go. I have the croakiest voice ever. I almost lost my voice earlier today. It's hanging around a little bit, but yeah, it's going to make it interesting making videos. But anyway, what I've got here is my sketch pad. Last time I used it was for Welling Hall, Treebeard's home, one of my Battle Games in Middle-earth builds, which was very much fun. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to sketch out roughly what this grating, or whatever you want to call it, looks like, that I'm going to build between Smaug and Thorin's company. And I've been watching the video, and I've actually managed to find a little bit of a freeze frame which shows it a bit better, because when you look at it mostly it looks like it is only just uprights, and there's not actually anything else going on. So you would just have like pillars like this being the solid material here, but actually every other pillar joins together in a peak, goes on up like this, I believe. No, it crosses over. It crosses over, actually. Apologies. So it kind of does this. It's a bit of an interesting shape. So it has a kind of up, down, like that. So this is going to be solid, and this is going to be solid. And then the next one is just an upright, and then the next one does this kind of crossover effect, like that. I've drawn that better this time. There we are. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and reproduce this, which isn't actually as complex as I feared. I thought it was going to be a lot of carving, a lot of faffing, but creating some uprights and then creating some wider ones and cutting out these shouldn't be too hard, particularly if I make myself a nice template. So that's what I'm going to do now. There's the plan. Get that glued in place, and yeah, so I'll get that cut. I'll bring you along when I do the cutting. I'll show you the templates, bring you along when I do the cutting, then we can get that stuck in place and start to look at the backdrop. But at least I've understood now what's going on. The other thing that I've done, I've opened the pack of miniatures and I've identified that actually there is Bomber here, then Balin, definitely next to each other. And Balin is the other side of Bomber. So I think what I'm going to have is, because I want to have the Hobbit, obviously I want to have Bilbo. So Bilbo here is going to be on the first, it's going to be hiding behind the first one. And then the next one across will have Bomber, and I might even be able to have more than that, but I'm going to have at least Bilbo, Bomber and Balin, and then I'll go from there to see how many other uprights I've got to hide them round. Now I'm going to have to do a little bit of converting, unfortunately, particularly Balin, who is holding his sword across his body here and is not really looking how I'd want him to for hiding from Smaug's fire. But I should be able to maybe be able to simply clip off the sword and maybe file down the arm and then do a little bit of green stuff to have his arm kind of like a little bit more down towards his side, but possibly even just taking his sword away might be enough. So there's going to be a little bit of green stuffing required, but hopefully not too much. So yeah, gonna get that, gonna get the templates for the grating done, and I'll bring you along when I come to the cutting. Well, that took a bit of thinking and quite a few attempts. That was one of them. I realised it was probably a little bit wide, so I've made it a bit narrower, and I'm very happy with that. So that's 2 centimeters by 3 by 2, which is perfect. So what I then did is I've transferred these over to this Weetabix box, done it twice, so I can put one side on one side of my polystyrene and the other one on the other side, and then I'll be able to use the Proxon to cut around that. So I'm going to take that down, and I might even actually pin it as well, and get it so that it's not going to move, and then I'll bring you over to the Proxon and we'll do some cutting. And I'm probably going to be able to get away with only 2 of these, so I'll need to cut this out and then cut the other one out. In hindsight, maybe I should cut a block, do the template once and then slice it in half. You know what, I'm going to do that. So I have the XPS. This is actually cut in half because it's 6 centimeter XPS, so or EPS even. So what I'll do is I'm going to get myself a block of EPS that's the correct height and twice the width, and then I can cut that out only once and then I only have to slice through the middle once. So that'll save me some pain. So I'll get that done, get it all masked up, and then we'll go over to the Proxon. Right, so I've masked up both sides, and now is the moment of truth. Find out whether I've wasted my time or not. So the idea is by masking both sides that you actually get a relatively accurate cut. It's very easy to make mistakes when you don't have it masked both sides. And you can see that that's going to work fine. So let's carry on. And that is good enough for me. So what I'll do now is set this to 30mm and then slice it in half like that, and then I'll have 2 of the shapes that I need for this part of the build. I'm very pleased with that. That's turned out rather well. I've got a little bit of an issue there. Let me just fix that. But that's turned out pretty well all round. There we are, that's better. Right, let's get that sliced in half and then we'll move on to the next step. Well, I got that done yesterday evening and then I was so tired, I went straight to bed and I couldn't even film, I was that tired. But you can see that that has worked out perfectly. I am so pleased. So I've got 2 of the shape and then one with no shape. And I think I'm probably going to need to have, I might even need to do another with the shape looking at this, but I'm not sure. I've got one there without the shape, so I might be able to do it just like that, but that's going to work great. I mean, I'm very, very pleased. I'm blown away by the fact that I managed to do it, frankly. Next thing to do is to work on the rocks and the wall here. So the wall finishes at this grate, so it comes along like this. There's some square kind of like shapes, and then there's unfinished wall above it. So what I'm going to do, and how I'm going to do that, is I'm going to first of all make the square shapes and glue that all together, and I'll probably make use of the same black foam here, use the wire brush and what have you. And I'll probably also do the whole of the back using the black foam, because my plan is to put modelling compound on for the stone effect. I think that's going to give me the effect I see in the films best and easiest without trying to like pull apart XPS. So yeah, so I'm going to do some drawing, do some sketching again, and then when I've done that and I've got some rough designs, then I'll bring you along and show you how I'm going to sandwich it together. The only other thing to say is I'm really considering putting an LED inside or a light inside of his mouth, drilling through, and then I can drill a bigger hole here and feed in a battery and potentially have the smoke and fire starting, which might be cool, but that might be out of scope. I also need to get back to painting this. Need to darken them up a bit. Anyway, so yeah, so I'm going to do some drawing and some sketching, some measuring, and I'll bring you back when I've got a template. I've had another couple of deliveries today. This lot came from the UK. It seems to be quicker getting things to Bulgaria from the UK than from Germany, which makes no sense at all to me, but whatever. And these are trees that are going to go on my diorama, which I'm making for TCU and also for the model railway. So I've got these ones which are far smaller than I realised they were going to be. But I've just checked the listing and that's what it said, so I just misread the listing. So they'll work for little bushes. Then I've got these ones that you can see are bigger. Now they're all going to need a little bit of work. They're shedding a bit, they're going to need to be coated in PVA at the very least and sealed and potentially improved. But different sizes. And then finally, literally I bought loads, and I think I might have even more on the way. I've got these ones as well. So just a whole bunch of different sizes of fir trees, because that's what I need for that diorama. I didn't have very many left after doing so many on the Christmas railway. So that's arrived. Another couple of bits and pieces have. Just in this clip, I have received the paints for my dad's plane, which you can see at the back there. So that's very cool, because that's what I was waiting for, because I need to do some painting before I can close it up and carry on. So I've got the paints now, aka Interactive. Just bought these off eBay. So I just went and looked at the colours that you needed and ordered the ones. So I've got those, so that means I can get back to that, which is really, really cool. And then the final thing, I'm going to clear the trees away, bring them across, and I'll show you. So this particular pile of awesome came from the legend that is Ollie over at Broadsword Wargaming. Can't recommend him highly enough, particularly if you're looking for Games Workshop in the EU. He is a great supplier. He got a bunch of this stuff in second hand and gave me first refusal, so I grabbed it off him. So we've got some more Marauder destroyers. Or more. I don't think I've got any of these yet. So we've got some Marauder destroyers, which are pretty cool. Pretty much undamaged, a little bit of plastic come off there. We've got the Fire Raptor gunship squadron. They're pretty awesome, must admit. I really like that colour scheme, so I may be tempted by that. I ordered the Wings of Vengeance from him, which was a better deal than I could get anywhere else. He did me a solid on that. That was pretty cool, so it's another starter box to go with all the other ones I've got. And then finally, these are pretty cool. The Aircraft and Aces cards that just help you to play the actual game. So I've got that for the Orcs and for the Imperial Navy. So that probably tells me which two I should really focus on painting up, so I can actually make use of these cards. So this was really cool. Again, took a long time. This one went to Germany. It just seems to take forever at the moment to get things out of Europe or across Europe. I don't know why, but it's cool that it's arrived, and it was packed very well again, as it always is from Ollie. So again, if you are looking to buy anything like this, can't recommend him highly enough. Really nice guy, and does really good service, which is what you need.
So I think that was everything that arrived. I don't think I've got anything else particularly exciting to talk about there. But these will go on the shelf and will appear on the channel when I get to them. I'm currently in the process, off video as it happens, of putting together some more of these, which are the ones that I did the wings backwards first time round, so I ordered another box and I've done them right this time. So I am working on some Aeronautica Imperialis, just not specifically on the vlog, just because it's the same thing I've done before. But yeah, I'll probably get to, I really like that colour, look at how striking that is. I'll probably try and do those next. They're pretty awesome. So I finally finished painting up the two Cane Corso for this micro diorama as a gift for the people who took Bexley off our hands when Rosie was born. The next step is going to be to put them on the base. So what I'm going to do, I don't know if this is going to work, but it should do because it's quite a rough plastic, so I think it will work, is I have my watered down PVA, my terrain glue as I call it, and I'm going to use that PVA to stick some sand. And I think I'm going to be not very creative on this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to carefully, and I mean carefully, stick this down to this rough plastic and attempt to not get any on the rim or around the outside. And then if that dries well, we're going to be all good, and I'll come along and I'll do another, I'll seal it with some more PVA, and then I'll start painting it, doing some fun, put some flowers and bushes and what have you, because it's going to basically be a little display for them to have when they come back to Bulgaria. They're away at the moment, they've been away for several months, so just a little gift for them really. It's nice to say thanks, isn't it? So yeah, so slap some watered down PVA on here, get that done. There we are, got that. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the sifted sand on it. I need to sift some more sand, I'm running out again. And I'll let that dry actually, I'm not going to empty it straight off. So I'll let that dry, and then tomorrow I'll empty that back in, and hopefully most of it will have stuck to this. And then if it has, I can come and do another coat over the top of PVA, and that will seal it all in. And then, like as I say, I can start to work out on some colour and some flowers and what have you, and then stick finally the two Bexleys into place. So there we are, just hopefully quite a quick little project now, shouldn't take too long, but it'd be nice to have it done, and then whenever they do come back, hopefully soon, because we miss them because they're lovely people, then that'll be that'll be ready and waiting for them. So with this big back piece on, what I'm going to do now, I need to really start to build up the terrain around it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark where these pillars are, so I can then start to build all of the terrain while the bridge is actually not in the way. So I can do this without knocking it, that would be ideal. It doesn't need to be massively accurate, just close enough, because I will leave gaps around all of these areas, and then I'll be able to slot the bridge in, glue it in place, and fill in the gaps around the legs quite easily. And then I can get to doing the rest of this scenery, building up the rest of the contours. So yeah, just roughly sketching where these legs are, and then move the bridge out the way and crack on with the rest of the polystyrene, which I'll do probably mostly off camera because it's going to be a bit of a dull thing. The one key thing to remember is when I'm putting the polystyrene on and applying glue, I need to make sure that any glue I apply is not near where I want to cut, otherwise the hot bar cutter won't go through, and I'll need to resort to a sharp knife, which isn't ideal. But anyway, there are where all the legs are, so I can now put the bridge to one side, and now I can start to build up the rest of it without that bridge in the way, because it is a bit, and can get the rest of this contour as it comes down, and as it goes up to a cliff and then kind of like has a little bit of a shade away. So yeah, I'm going to do that. I'll bring you along when I've got a little bit more glued in, when I've got a little bit more, maybe when I've finished doing all of the polystyrene, I'm about to start the hot wire cutting. That's probably the next stage to do. One other thing to mention actually, while I'm on this clip, just move the camera around, is I started painting up the actual truck, and I've got the two SUVs. Unfortunately, two of the wheels failed to print, so I'm going to need to make some backup for that vehicle. But this vehicle now is fine and will be ready to go and print. These are paint even. These are vehicles that are going to be following behind the towed plane. The one thing that I've not done is the actual extension, which is going to be behind this, to actually sit the plane on. I really need to start getting into that. But I have done all of the filling on the plane, and now I'm going to also get some very fine sandpaper and just sand that down before painting. So it is making progress. I'm just nervous, so I don't know how to do the attachment on the trailer. I found some files, but they don't really print out, or they don't really appear to print out very nicely. So I might actually even end up just using balsa wood and scraps of plastic, scraps of sprue, and try to make something up on my own, which I'm sure I'll be alright to do it, but yeah, so it's going to be an interesting challenge, that. And of course, when I get to that, I will turn the camera on and show you how I'm doing it. But for now, I'm going to just do some polystyrene work, and yeah, we're gonna crack on. I'm at that stage now where I think, why do I have a YouTube channel? I don't know what I'm doing. And I'm just making it up as I go along. But hey, that's all we ever do, isn't it? So what I've done is I've glued loads of this polystyrene, and as you can see, built it up. And I've drawn some lines along the back, and I have my wand, which never works very well. So hopefully it's going to work this time. And I'm going to attempt to sculpt in some of what I see. Now I do see that there is a bit of a ravine here, kind of coming down here. I also have basically decided that this rough line, and obviously it's going to be smoothed out a bit, but this rough line is where the cliff or the cutout is going to be, and then there's a little bit more of a kind of smoothed area here. So yeah, I've no idea how this is going to go. We're just going to kind of give it a go, and hope that it doesn't go too terribly wrong. So let's see what happens. So this wand is part of the hot wire foam factory, and I love their router tool, but their wand I've never had much luck with, so hopefully this is going to work well. Also, I am doing this before my glue is set, which is probably not ideal. Well, there we are, we've got a cut that can go into my box to save. So I'm going to carry on with this, hacking away, smoothing it out. I will need to come along and smooth that a lot, but I'm going to be putting modelling compound on, so I'll be able to smooth a lot of the saw marks and the irregularities there. Like I say, I want to have a bit of a ravine coming in here, but I'm going to move the bridge out of the way now and get in there and try and continue that cut. Pretty happy with that. And I'll show you what it looks like when I get to the next step, which is going to be smoothing all this off. So we're making some good progress. I'm pretty pleased with where I've got to now. I don't have much more time today, so yeah, just getting this done as and when I can. Just lift the bridge out of the way, and there you can see the Mod Podge and the mishmash of bits of polystyrene that I've put in. Well, after several weeks of effort, the workshop is finally getting close to completed. This is my bench, which is going to have my 3D printers on it. Back here you can see a box. This is actually the enclosure for the Prusa, which I'm not going to do now because I need to be a lot more rested and spend a bit more time putting that together. But what I am going to do is I'm going to put the grow tent and heater and what have you for the resin printers, because I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to have the resin printers here, and then get them moved down from upstairs, and then I can focus on the Prusa, and I can also make some more space upstairs for myself because the printers do take up a lot of space in room 13. This unit here will have my resins and other things in it, and I've also got a lot of storage underneath where I can put more things. I'm very pleased. We've varnished this multiple times, as you can see. It's going to be very hard wearing, and hopefully be nice and easy to clean if I have any resin spills. So there we are. So this evening I'm going to spend a bit of time putting this tent together, and yeah, I'll bring you back when it's done. Well, it's the next morning, and that's much bigger than I expected it to be, but it's awesome. It went together really well. I'm very pleased. So if you are looking to put something like this together, maybe get a smaller one, not quite so high. I could probably have done with half the height and the width are the same. And I might actually look, because this could be very useful in the garden anyway, I might actually look to see if there's a smaller one in the future. However, for now, this is going to be good. But the problem I've got is, if I lift that down, you can see that I have two lights on the wall there. There we are. And this is so high that it goes up above those lights. Now, I wasn't expecting it to be this tall, and I didn't plan for that. So what I'm going to do now is this light here needs to come down. I'm going to basically take it down, tape off the ends of the cables and tie it back up to this ducting, and think about where I might want to put that light at some other time. I think that there's actually just a junction box or a little kind of splitter here. I did this wiring many years ago. But what I need to do is move that one out of the way, because then this can fit in here. I can keep that light, and I can basically fit this fully onto the shelf, onto the bench. So I couldn't do this last night, obviously, because I didn't want to work in the dark, and all of my lights are on the same ring. So if I turn turn the thing off at the box, I'd have been in darkness last night. So I've waited for this morning. I'm just going to quickly get that done, and then we'll lift this in place, and I'll show you the controller and the heater that I've got, and then I can start to move my printers down. So yeah, big success. As I say, just it's huge, really huge, and I didn't expect it to be quite that tall. Well, that's done and in place. It didn't take me very long. I was actually able to remove the cable, which is good, from up here. They did just have a couple of joint blocks. Speaking like Gollum. So yeah, so what I'm now going to do is take you over there. We'll have a look at the rest of the parts. So the heater and the little thermometer controlled plug. And then I'll get my printers set up in there, and I'll wrap this up. I'm very pleased to have got this done. It is a beautiful day out there. See if this will work. There we are. Look at that. Absolutely beautiful early on a Sunday morning. And yeah, well, anyway, enough of that. Let's have a look at these heaters and plugs. So what we have here is a little ceramic heater, which is only 500 watts, and the Inkbird Smart Home Smart Life plug, which you can set for as a thermometer control power. And I will link to the website that I was reading that was suggested to me by, I can't remember, one of the guys on the Paint All the Minis Discord linked me to it, because I was talking about this as an idea, and so I decided to give it a go. So I will link to that in the description below, and it describes how to do this, and I'll also put a link to where I bought these. They're just from Amazon, sadly, but you can pick up any small heater and any thermostatically controlled plug. And the idea is you drop the probe in, and you hang the probe kind of central and between any printers, so it's not going to be near the heater. And then you have the heater plugged into this, so when it gets to a certain lower bound, it turns on, and when it gets to a certain upper bound, it turns off. And that's the idea. And that means that your enclosure will stay at a constant temperature. Now, the reason I need that is this workshop is not heated, and we do get down into quite substantial minuses, not dreadful, but quite substantial minuses here in winter. And even though right now it's warm enough to stand in here and I'm wearing open-toed sandals because I'm crazy, it never really gets down to freezing inside because we've got very good insulation, but it certainly gets down to 10, 11 degrees probably in here in the winter, maybe even lower than 10. And so that would be too cold if I were to be running the resin printers. These were pretty cheap. They didn't cost a lot of money. The main thrust of this is keeping dust off. So the main reason for the tent is keeping dust off, and these are just so that I have utility from the printers during the winter. So what I'm going to do now is shift everything down, put everything in place, plug everything in, bring the UPS, and then we'll have a look and see what the actual setup looks like, and I'll give it a test. And yeah, pretty exciting though. I'm very pleased that it's here, and it's so cool to have my workshop to a stage where I actually have a bench to put my printers on. So I've had a lot of fun this week painting up my Clockwork Dragon for Rosie. As you can see, I've made a really good amount of progress. It's not quite finished, the paint job, but very, very close to finished. I've picked out our 3 favourite colours. Rosie's favourite colour is orange, mine is green, and Angela's is purple, so you can see highlights of that throughout the build. I'm about to print the base to go with this, one of the base toppers I backed a Kickstarter ages ago, forgot about it and just remembered, and there's a good looking base that will work well with this, so I'm going to print a base to stick it on. It'll be a bit easier and it'll be fitting in with the steampunk theme, which is cool. And yeah, when I've got that printed, I'll show you it and then we'll get it painted up. It's a week today is Rosie's birthday, so I'm on time. I'm not going to be late, and hopefully she's going to love it. And I've done another coat of the scenic glue on this, and you can see that that's stuck down well enough. It certainly wouldn't be hardy enough for playing games on, but it's going to be good for this terrain, this scenic base. So what I'm going to do now is come along a little bit more carefully than that with this reddy brown. This is also mixed with PVA to make it a little bit more make it do a little bit more gluing, and this is going to be a nice colour to go underneath and then have the flock and grasses put on top. So I'll paint this over carefully. It's not quite dry, I'm rushing this a little bit. Once this is painted on, I'm going to go and put this on the windowsill in the lounge. It's a beautiful sunny day, it might be cold outside, but the greenhouse effect is in full force in there, and that should dry it nice and quickly and get it fully dried for the next stage, which will be adding on a flock and grasses and then working out exactly where I'm going to position each of the puppies, of the dogs. So there we are, very pleased to be getting a little bit more progress on this. It's been sat on my shelf glaring at me while I very, very slowly painted many different types of black and dark grey and what have you onto the actual dogs. They took longer to paint than I expected, being so simple. But yeah, now they're painted, we can finish this off nice and quickly, and then as soon as our friends get back in the country, they'll have a lovely gift waiting for them, which is the best reason to make anything, isn't it, if you're going to give it. Oh, you can see that's lifting a bit. It definitely isn't going to be good for scenery, but as long as it's not touched a lot, it will be good enough. I keep reactivating the glue. What I might do is varnish as well. I might apply some non-water based matte varnish over the top of this as well to prevent that happening again next time I apply glue. Anyway, there we are, all painted. Let's go and let that dry. Well, there we are, and that was such a long video that all my hair fell out. No, I'm joking. Yeah, it was just getting a bit crazy, wasn't it? I was starting to look a bit more lunatic than I actually am. So I thought I'd trim it all off and give myself a bit of a cleaner look. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know in the comments below what you thought. Let me know what your favourite project was. I'd love to hear that, actually. I don't often ask those sorts of questions, but it would be nice to hear. So if you did make it this far, thank you, and let me know which project you're enjoying the most. There's a few others bubbling in the background. Obviously, I always have a lot going on, but this week has been really good, particularly with the 2 big projects. The TCU Challenge is really going on great guns. I'm about to start on the model and compound on that, and then I'm getting towards the painting and finishing up stage of the diorama for Heroic Highlights as well, the Erebor diorama. So that's always really good. Anyway, I'll stop rambling. Thank you so much for watching. Recommendation Mondays will be coming tomorrow. Watch out for that. Great channel. really good friend of the channel, of my channel, really top lad, and a fantastic new YouTube channel that you need to go and check out. So that'll be coming out tomorrow, so watch out for that. And yeah, as always, as I say, and I mean it, please do stay healthy, stay safe, and stay well.